Have you ever struggled to deploy a CAP application to the cloud? Or have you ever struggled to see the proper logs in the BTP for your CAP application? Well, then, good news, CAP Console is here to solve all of your problems regarding deployment and monitoring. I'm Vincent, and together with Timon, I'm gonna show you the CAP Console. It's a tool, as I said, to monitor and deploy and also locally monitor your CAP application. It's based on the grow as you go principle from CAP, which basically says you can execute your application right away just after initializing it, and then you can add features, and while CAP ensures that it works in every state. And we want to achieve the same thing with deployment. So after you finished your development, ideally, deployment should also be as easy. And that's what we're striving to do. The CAP console is an evolution of the developer dashboard for Java. Generally, the CAP console is an application that we build out of our own struggles with deployment and monitoring. So it's an application that is made by developers for developers so that all of us never have to struggle with deployment or monitoring again. All right, so here we are in the CAP console. The first thing you'll notice is that you can see a CAP project, which is the bookshop in Java, and this was automatically detected. And I can now show you the same with JavaScript. So it is starting, and now we have detected a JavaScript CAP application. So this is the first feature of the CAP console. You now have an overview of all your CAP projects. And since you will, of course, mainly be working on a specific project, you can also save that project. So now, even if you were to stop the project, you can still see it in the CAP console. Yes, as a stop project now. The project card here has a few buttons, as you can see. So for example, you can visit the UI of the application. You can open it in your editor, which is VS Code here. And in case a GitHub link is defined in your POM XML or your package.json, you can also view your application in your GitHub repository. Now, one final thing to show here in the dashboard is that you can also filter your projects. So right now we display every project, but we could, for example, only display running projects or only stop projects, or we could display only detected or only safe projects. All right, that's it for the dashboard. Now we come to one of the main features of the CAP console, which is the deployment. So imagine you have a locally running CAP application here, and you want to deploy it to the cloud. You hit the Add Deployment button, and first of all, you got to log in to the BTP. So we log in. And now you have to select a global account and a sub account you want to deploy to. So here you can see we automatically detect all the global accounts you have access to. And inside the global accounts, of course, all sub accounts. As you can see, sub accounts you don't have access to are grayed out. Okay, so I'll select the Devtoberfest sub account. And now you can see I can decide if I want to use Cloud Foundry or Kuma as a runtime environment. Kuma currently isn't available, so I can only decide to use Cloud Foundry. And here's a little status pill displaying that currently there is no Cloud Foundry org in your sub account. You can still click on the continue button, and let's do that. And now you proceed to the next step, which now says enable Cloud Foundry. So you can just decide for a CF org name. I could just name it after the sub account and some random numbers so we can ensure that it is unique. Then I hit enable Cloud Foundry. This takes a few seconds, and then Cloud Foundry is enabled in your sub account, and you can proceed. Next thing is you authenticate to Cloud Foundry. In my case, I am already authenticated and the token is remembered, so no need for me to do anything there. Still, I can show it. So I copy the authentication code, I paste it here, and you can see I'm logged into Cloud Foundry. Now I have to select a Cloud Foundry space I want to deploy to. Right now, there is no Cloud Foundry space, so I'll go ahead and create one. Again, as with the CF org enablement, I have to choose a name. Again, I'll just use Devtoberfest. I can choose the roles that my user should have in the space. I'll go with the default ones, Space Manager and Space Developer, and the space is created. So I can continue. And now we come to the more interesting part of the deployment flow. As you can see, we have something we call an entitlement table. So in your CUP project, you'll have a deployment descriptor. In the Cloud Foundry case, it'll be an MTA YAML. And in the MTA, you have different resources defined that you need for your deployment, which are the BTP services. And you can see here, we read out the BTP services from your MTA YAML, and we compare the required BTP services to what is available on your global account and your sub account. So now you can see you have all the required entitlements for the BTP services in the global account, but you lack a few entitlements on a sub account level. You can click on assign quota. And now you can see all entitlements are available on a sub account level. There is a little warning icon though. And if I hover over it, I can see entitlement assigned, but instance has not been created yet. Okay, what does that mean? Also, I can see here that these two BTP services are differently displayed than the other BTP services. Reason for that is that the HDI container has a dependency on the SAP HANA Cloud service. So without a database engine, you can't deploy a database. So we say, okay, you could proceed with the deployment in theory, but it would fail definitely because without an existing HANA Cloud instance, you cannot deploy with an HDI container. So if I click continue now, I won't head to the deployment right away, but I will head to the BTP service instance creation because I want to create a HANA Cloud instance. I can give it a name like CUP console HANA. I could edit the memory. Default is 30 gigabytes. And then I'll have to enter a password. As you can see, all requirements are displayed here. So I'll enter a password that fulfills all the requirements, and I click Create Instance. And now we will need to wait for the HANA instance creation to finish. Otherwise, the deployment would fail. We could click on Enable Deployment anyways and go ahead with the deployment, but we'll pause here and continue once the instance creation is done. All right, the HANA instance was successfully created, and now the in-app deployment button is also enabled. Before I'll click on it, I'll explain what's happening down here. So in this screen, you can decide to either deploy in-app with the CAP console, which has the benefit that you don't need any CLI tools installed. But if you want to have the control over the deployment, you can also copy the deployment command, which is basically just CDS up from here. And if this checkbox is selected, then you will be authenticated to the Cloud Foundry CLI. So you just have to paste the command and that's it. And I'm gonna show this now. So if I type cf target, see I'm logged in. Okay, so now you can see I'm logged out. Now I paste the commands. And if I type cf target now, you can see I'm logged in. And if I paste the command in here, I can start the deployment. I'm gonna abort it now so that I can show the in-app deployment. Okay. For in-app deployment, it's as simple as it could be. You just click the deploy button and then the deployment starts. Since the logs are pretty wide, you can expand the logs here. And the logs are also written to a separate file that you can look at. Since this one is limited to, I think, 1,000 lines. Yeah. And we'll pause at this point and come back when the deployment is finished. All right, so the deployment is finished. And I can click on the Finish button. And now I have two options. I can visit the UI and I can view the deployment in the CAP console. First, I'll visit the UI. And we can see by the URL that indeed an application was deployed to the VTP and it works. Returning to the CAP console. Now, if I click on View Deployment, I am routed to the project monitoring view. And now Timon will explain what all this means.
Yeah, so as Vincent already mentioned, we are now connected to Cloud Foundry and can see the application we have just deployed. You can see here that we get a nice little graphical overview of how the application looks like on the cloud. On the left side here, we have the app router, which is basically the central entry point into your application. And all requests coming from the internet will first go into this app router. After that, we can see our CF application. We can also click on that. This is kind of the main star of the show here. All our CDS services live inside of that CF application. And if you click on a CF application from CAP console, you can also see that we show you an excerpt from the MTA YAML to help you identify what exactly or how exactly that application is defined. And of course, there is a jump off point into the editor again. So in case you want to change something, you can just click here. This code is opening at the right place and in the right line. So even if you have a very complicated MTA with lots of different services, this should hopefully help you to find the right places to edit your applications. On the left side here, we can see a bit of meta information about the CF application as well as the control buttons. So we can just use these, for example, to restart the application. And you can also see directly now that the little green bubble started blinking. And so we also fetch the data for the different applications from the CF and update them in real time. While this is restarting, we can quickly check out what else is visible here. And okay, just finished restarting. So we reconnected to the application. And in this little card here, we can see some meta information like when it was created, when it was last updated, as well as the application route and a BTP cockpit link. In general, throughout the whole application, we try to put BTP cockpit links wherever possible. And these are also deep links. So if I were to click on it opens the BTP cockpit in the right space, in the right organization, and also directly opens the application. So you can easily jump off into the BTP cockpit without having to navigate through all the different levels that the BTP cockpit offers you. This overview works for CF applications, as we've just seen, but also for BTP services. So if we, for example, choose the XSUAA service here, we can also see the service definition of the XSUAA, some meta information, and once again, a deep link into the BTP cockpit if you were to make updates to any of the services. So let's click on that to get rid of it and have the clean screen again. And one of the most useful parts also for me as a developer has been the view logs functionality. As you can see up here, we have this little view logs button. Just click on that and a log viewer will open up. Doesn't look like too much yet, but if we open the UI and, for example, start browsing some books and just click that a couple of times, you are able to see that the logs are now coming in from the deployed application. The really nice feature we have implemented here is a live log level switcher. The really cool thing is you don't need to restart your application or update any environment variables. It's as simple as clicking on debug, and now your logs are shown in debug. So if we now click go again, you can see that a whole lot of log messages came in. And if that's too much for me, I can just switch back to info. And now it's a bit quieter again. Again, I can click go a couple of times and all the different requests now come in. This, of course, is super nice, but there also might be cases where you want to see logs from the other parts of your application. For example, you have an issue with your app router. That's no problem for Cap Console. Just click on logs here, and let's go back to the UI and reload that. And you can see here that we are also able to retrieve the Cloud Foundry logs from the app router. Of course, they don't look as nice, unfortunately, as the logs for the CF applications, but they are here. You can view them. And for every CF application in your CAP application, basically, you can view the raw CF logs in case you want to debug some issues. I think now we can do a very quick behind the scenes peek of how the whole log retrieval works. You might have seen it in the loading screens, but what basically happens is we establish a SSH tunnel to your application, which is secure. And over that tunnel, we then establish a WebSocket connection to a plugin running in your CAP application. The plugin is available for Java and JavaScript and will be hosted on the usual NPM and Maven artifactories for you to download. And once you have installed this plugin, you can then use the more advanced log functionality with the live log level switching and such. And yeah, that's basically it for the first rough overview of the monitoring. One more thing I'd like to highlight here, which was also a big pain point in our development team, is that one person creates an environment, but we are a team of more people. And of course, all members of the team should be able to access the environments, which is why we've decided that the environments should be Git friendly. As you can see right now, every environment is just a simple YAML file, which will be placed in a .cds folder in your GitHub repository. And then it's up to you to choose if you want to track that file so all your team members are able to access it, or if you want to keep it private. And in general, Cup Console doesn't ship with any rights. It leverages the user's account. So even if you were to share your environments via Git, only people with access to the accounts can access it. Of course, in a real development scenario, there is not only one environment, but a multitude of environments you want to administrate and monitor. And for that, we've built the environment switcher. So you just click on the environment and will be presented with a drop-down of all the available environments that have been configured in Cappuccino. And if you want to switch, it's as simple as just clicking on a different environment. Now you can see you get the little connecting screen while we're building the whole connection in the background. That takes about 2 to 3 seconds, but then you're done. Now you're logged in. We can now see logs from the prod instance. So you might see that the URL up top changed here. And it is the exact same thing. Logs are coming in now. I can see those. And this works basically for all the different Cloud Foundry environments you might encounter, for all the different BTP environments you might encounter. If we click on Edit Environments here real quick, you can see we have the one we've just deployed is on EU12, and the prod run is on EU10.005. And Cappuccino is just able to connect to all of them in a very seamless and nice way. You don't need to remember any URLs. Basically, if the file exists in the .cds folder, you will be able to see it in Cappuccino. And if your user has access rights, you will be able to access it and view the logs. There is one additional environment, which is the development environment, what we call, and you might see that it says local here. And if we click on that, we are now connected to the local development environment, which is running on your machine. And you can use the exact same functionality that you also use in the cloud. Some services are now hidden. For example, the BTP services and the app router have no relevance on your local machine, so we've hidden them from you. But the main application, which is the one you'll be interested in while developing, is still visible and still has the same functionality as it would have in the cloud. You can still click the View Logs button, and if we then open the UI and order some books, you can see those logs coming in. And we can also switch to the debug level, of course, if you want to see more stuff. You can also have a look at your MTA. If you haven't deployed it yet, that still works. And I think we've now shown you a lot of Java project. Time to show JavaScript some love. We've promised in the beginning that Cup Console works for Java and JavaScript. So this is now a JavaScript project, and you have the exact same functionality as you would have in Java. You can see the MTA, you can open the logs, and if we now order some books in JavaScript, you can also see that these logs come in. We support live log level switching on JavaScript, so we can order some more books. And I completely lost where I am there. And you can see these logs coming in here. We can also collapse the top of the application to give the logs a bit more space. And yeah, it's basically the exact same thing as in Java, just for JavaScript. There is one additional feature There might be environments where you don't want to install the Cap Console plugin. Cap Console is able to handle that though. If we now connect to the no plugin CF account here, you can see that it took a bit longer, but we then switched to the missing plugin indicator up top. And that basically means that we were not able to establish a connection to the plugin I've just shown. You are still able to use Cap Console though. You can still view logs, and these will of course then only be Cloud Foundry logs since we don't have the advanced functionality of our plugin available, but you are still able to see the logs and debug your application. I think with that, we come to an end for our session. Thank you very much for joining. And I do hope that there is one question in your mind right now, which is basically, where can I get it? How can I use it? And yeah, Cap Console will be available as a native application for macOS and Windows and can be downloaded at the link below. It's free to use, free to download. Please go ahead, check it out. We also have a dark mode in case you don't like bright UIs. And let us know what you think. This app is made by developers for developers, and we are relying on your feedback to make it the best version it can be. Once again, thank you for joining from my side, also from Vincent, and have a nice day.